Okay, is. It is the top of the hour. I am Connie Kandansky. Welcome. We are thrilled that you are here. And as they say at the Global Chamber, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I am so excited to be presenting today on this really important information because the global mindset at the Global Chamber is what attracted me to it, is the mindset that we are interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. So I am thrilled to introduce to you my co-host today, David Mashari. He was born in Kazakhstan and he won the green card lottery to get into the United States. And he is one successful international coach and executive. And so please welcome David Mashari. He's also the president-elect for International Coaching Federation for Arizona with over 400 coaches. So welcome, and we are thrilled that you are here. Now, we're going to have some interactivity today. I hope that you feel comfortable. We're going to be asking some questions. The answers are in the questions, so we'll keep an eye on the chat as David and I have this conversation with you, and you are so welcome to participate today. So, David, go for it. You're ready to share your screen, and we'll take it from here.
Sure. Thank you so much, Connie. It's a pleasure to talk to you all today, and I hope you will find it very useful, this information. And before I start my presentation, I have to also point out that in addition to me being international, working in different countries in Asia, Middle East, and Europe, and now in the United States, I also have this hobby of looking, you can call me an art enthusiast. So I put some my favorite works of art in my presentation to illustrate my thoughts. So bear with me. Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Great. So once I clicked on this, I cannot see the chat. So Connie, if you have any questions, please let me know.
I
And
will.
please feel free to interrupt me, ask questions in the chat or commenting. We would like to make it as interactive as possible, like Connie just said. So because I mentioned about the art, this title slide actually is a very interesting painting that I love so much. It's a great illustration of the volatile world that we live in. The painting is called Great Wave of Kanagawa by Katsushika Hokusai, a Japanese painter in 1831. And if you can see, there are some people actually on the boat trying to go through the storm. And this is how exactly I feel maybe right now with all the things that are happening in the world, that we're going through some storms, but we're surviving. And hopefully this presentation will help you to get more tools to become more agile and survive this very interesting world that we live in now. You probably heard of the abbreviation VUCA Volt, which is describing our world after 9/11 as volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. But now the new abbreviation after the pandemic of COVID-19 is very widely used now. It's called brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. And the quote that I would like to start with for this presentation is actually Charles Darwin saying, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, not the most intelligent that survives, but the most adaptable." So this, I think, applies not only to species and human beings, but also to organizations and companies. And we all know all these business cases with Nokia, Kodak, or Blockbuster Video, the companies that couldn't survive the uncertain world that is constantly changing. Connie, I would like to. Would you like to say to something about Bonnie World?
Yes, yes. And so Bonnie is a tool that gives us a reality check of our world view, and it possibly can correct some of our worldview. So we are living in a world that is delicate, uncontrollable, unpredictable, and impossible to comprehend. And when you look at the word brittle, brittle is the illusion of strength. It refers to something that is not as strong as it seems. It is breakable. And our world, especially Mother Earth, the economy and peacefulness, is a fragile, convoluted, interconnected ecosystem. And yes, we are witnessing that on a daily basis. And then when we look at the word anxious, is the illusion of control. So anxiety refers to a helplessness or an overwhelm. And it really is that subjective feeling that causes the gap from what we expect to what we experience. And we're starting to realize that we have never been in control. The nonlinear is that illusion of predictability. So nonlinearity is a natural feature in all complex systems. However, now there's increased awareness of the highly unexpected and disruptive events that break the illusion of predictability. And then the illusion of knowledge, incomprehensible. Experts are starting to say, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. Our world is a mystery. And Albert Einstein said there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other as though everything is a miracle. So I really look at this as celebrating, accepting, and wondering, and truly becoming the best version of ourselves. And that's the purpose of our presentation today.
Thank you, Connie. So this illustrates also the slide you see the painting of Edvard Munch on the Scream, and this is probably how people feel most of the time after the COVID-19 and now with all these geopolitical conflicts and economical disruptions. But it's not just that. Also, I think it touches each one of us personally because the world is becoming so complex and so. It doesn't go anywhere.
Oh, it's not. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So sorry. So the world is complex and also very exhausting with all the information that we get, in my view, because jobs are becoming increasingly bigger and demanding that we expected. So if we compare it to careers of our parents who, for example, were studying to become an accountant and then worked as accountants all their lives and everything was stable and predictable, now it's absolutely impossible to think this way because I don't envy new generations who are just entering the job market or people who are changing careers because it's right at the get-go, they feel very stressed. There's the imposter syndrome and all of my clients actually feel quite lonely on the top. As I'm doing executive coaching, for example, people feel very stressed out because they feel like there's so much information that they cannot absorb and digest. And we feel like this lady after the ball, right? So tired at the end of the day and not grasping all the information that we should be able to basically grasp. Connie, do you experience the same way with your clients?
Yes, yes. And I'm noticing that there are so many distractions. And wow, do we need to learn how to be indistractable?
So this painting is of two satires illustrates, like mind traps that are tempting us to think that we all that we are all know-it-all, very successful, in control people, but in reality, it actually can be very derailing for leadership development journey. I'll tell you one little story from my experience as a former executive search partner in Kazakhstan. I was working with Fortune 500 multinational company in consumer goods, and they assigned me to find a head of sales. So this guy was hired from my short list, and the client started calling me like after a few weeks saying that he's not learning agile. And this is the first time I heard this term, learning agility. And I said, like, learning agility. What does it mean? He's very successful. He had a good track record, and with all his achievements in sales and also consumer goods company, he should be fine. And I asked them to give him some time. So they start calling me again and saying, like, like he's not really investing into his management, managing his team. He's not there when we need him. He leaves work very quickly, like after 6 p.m. he's gone. It is a different schedule in a different side of the world. So they work from 9 to 6. And the probably last reason why they decided to let him go was during his probation period of 3 months, he decided to go on vacation to Thailand. But he had to join the video conference call because they're launching a new product. So he did join that conference call, basically wearing only swim trunks. And trust me, he was not very attractive, half naked. So they didn't like it at all, and they let him go. So I had to do an exit interview, and it was very bad experience for me because it was a failure, but also it was a very good lesson learned. Because when I asked him, like, why did you do this? There was the lifetime opportunity for you to become a CEO one day because it was very sales-driven organization. And he said, like, you know what? I only now realize that I had to change. So these are mind traps that we are talking about, and this is my first time experience with learning agility, how it can help you to escape these mind traps. Connie, what can you say about your experience with mind traps?
Yes. So when you really look at mind traps, they're mental habits, just habits of the mind that we learned, and we can unlearn them. And habituation is anything that we do gets strengthened, the positive and not so positive. And so the shackled by past successes, and a coach said to me recently, he said, yesterday's success is today's arrogance. And oftentimes we all have past successes that are notable and we're proud of, but by holding on to them, it keeps us from learning and growing and keeps us from experimenting at the edge. And one of the questions that when you think about how many times do you talk to somebody and they just keep telling you about their past successes, what new goals or challenges are you pursuing? And how are they different from what you've accomplished in the past? I will put that in the chat in just a minute. And then rightness, blinded by rightness. So when we're stuck in being right, it stifles our curiosity. The neuroscience is showing that when we're curious, our brain secretes dopamine. And dopamine is a happy hormone.
Absolutely.
We're happier when we're curious. So why are little kids so happy? They're just so curious. And rightness really closes down possibilities.
I'm not, but it doesn't make it right.
And I wonder if we can grab that. Somebody can grab that. So rightness closes down the possibilities, and we lose our sense of wonder, and we get bored and we're boring. And then, it's interesting that when you really look at the research, that smart people, really many smart people, I'm just saying many, can be ineffective at sales and negotiation. And you say, well, why is that? It's because they're so smart, they don't have anything to discover. And I have seen that. So really thinking about, what does it feel like when we're right? I mean, it feels like so good. However, what does it feel like when we're wrong? And think about a current situation that you're in that that's not quite feeling right. You have a little bit of irritation or frustration around it. To be able to just take a deep breath, settle back, and just ask yourself, so how might I be wrong? How might I be wrong about a particular person? How might I be wrong about the way I'm going about this? It's a head spinner. And it's not easy. However, it's a really good question to ask from time to time. And then the wanting to be in control, we talked about the illusion of control, is it's an anxiety-based need to take charge, jump on center stage, think that we can control the situation. And when we attempt to control the uncontrollable, what it does, it strips us of our influence. So the question there is, you're in a situation you really would like to take control, to ask yourself, so what can I help make possible? So I will put those 3 questions in the chat. So go forth and conquer, David.
Thank you. So with the example of my head of sales guy who did not succeed in his new job, basically, he fell into these 2 traps, in my view. He was shackled by past successes because he was so sure that whatever he did in the past would help him do the job within the new organization, but it didn't. And he stopped learning. He stopped adjusting to new culture and being open and curious, like Connie just said. So this is actually a more conceptual slide about what is learning agility and how we define it. Learning agility is a complex behavioral concept, I should say, because it can be measured, and many companies do measure learning agility when they think about hiring executives, or basically when they're looking at succession planning, who they want to promote within the organization. And it's a 5 different maybe sets of competencies, I should say, because it's not just one competence as people agility, for example, but there are different competencies that are related to people agility. So it's not being communicative per se, it's actually knowing how you can see the people for who they are, actually read them, not in terms of their non-verbal language, but in terms of what are their values, what are their strengths, what are their areas for development, and how you can build a team from these people that will be most effective. Change agility is very much related to a competency called managing ambiguity. It's very difficult to develop, but it's possible to develop. People who have change agility or have very high competency in managing ambiguity actually thrive in changing environment. They actually love to challenge status quo. They love to experiment. They like to try new things. And you can see them even among the kids, like if you have a group of children, there will always be someone who's challenging status quo, who's asking lots of questions and giving different ideas. But learning agile is also being a very result-oriented. So not only bringing consistent results, but also bringing results from new experiences, right? So not being afraid of trying new things, like Connie just said, like going into sales, for example, if you're not comfortable in sales, but actually bringing results in sales. That's results agility. Mental agility, it's not about high IQ or doing well on the tests. It's more about strategic thinking, more about, predicting the future or connecting the dots. And Albert Einstein would be a perfect example of mental agility. He wasn't very good in school, but of course, we know him for who he is. Another good example would be Steve Jobs, who was very bad in people agility, but was a visionary who knew that his product will be in demand in the future. And the most important probably here is self-awareness. Self-awareness and where you actually know who you are. You know your mission and vision. You know what you need to do. What are the areas for development and what are your strengths actually. So knowing about your blind spot that we just talked about it, how to escape these mind traps, it's a very good thing to start. And a lot of managers and leaders actually are not self-aware at all. They do not understand how other people perceive them.
Yes, and I've got an example of somebody who's a member of the Global Chamber of Commerce. He is the CEO of the American Battery Factory. His name is Paul Charles, and they just invested heavily and are moving a factory into Tucson, Arizona. And they have to staff this factory, right? Find personnel. And the company went to Pima Community College And the company is writing a curriculum for people to be able to work at that battery factory. And that is an example of just seeing a problem and having that visionary, thoughtful, and bringing it together. And it's going to be very good for the community, and also a step up for a lot of people that can work at that factory. And then also another example is Hank Marshall. So he's on the executive board for the Global Chamber, very world traveled, and he is just fun to talk to. And when I really observe and listen, it seems like he has pulled it together here. And so it is entirely possible to be able to develop these competencies. And tomorrow at the Global Chamber, at the same time, there's going to be a presentation on positive intelligence, which brings in that self-awareness, and this whole thing here will be pulled together tomorrow in that presentation. So at the end, I'm going to put that link in there, and please do not miss that presentation tomorrow.
Connie, you want to talk about global mindsets, and since we're at the Global Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, and so thinking about this global mindset is really just approaching problems and taking into account all the interconnectedness and interdependence in the different countries and cultures. And it is so inspiring. If you ever lose faith in the human race, jump onto one of the programs at the Global Chamber, because they're unstoppable. And they have that global mindset. They know for commerce and trade, we are interdependent. And so it's just developing the mindset. And one thing else is that is not seeing an individual as an adversary or an enemy, seeing the situation could be adversarial or a problem. We're all solving problems. So that is just a really worthy understanding of how the learning agility and the global mindset come together.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And actually, this slide, I wanted to ask you a question to guess who illustrated who did this painting. But of course, probably some of you already guessed, but I'm going to tell you, the whole slide was created by artificial intelligence, because I asked OpenAI chatbot to give me a definition, and this is the definition that artificial intelligence came with. And also there's another artificial intelligence that does the images and paintings. So I asked, can you please illustrate the global mindset and interconnectedness of cultures? And OpenAI, it's called DALI, like an artist, Salvador Dali, came up with this painting of two people holding a globe, which is very interesting. And this is also another reason why we see that the world is changing so quickly, and sooner or later we will be probably seeing some of the jobs absolutely disappearing, and new jobs will be created because of the technological development. Learning agility is very much connected to global mindset, because three of the that I showed you previously of 5 competencies is actually very well connected to 3 pillars of global mindset, which is intellectual capital, psychological capital, and social capital. So I'm not going to read all this through, but I would like to stop on self-awareness again, because like I said, self-awareness is probably where you should start as a leader or someone who aspires to become a leader in the future, because that's where you know yourself. That's where you are aware of your strengths and what you should count on the first. And also your areas of development and how other people perceive you. This is very much important to start with, because I think knowing the areas of development actually help you also to develop other people, because it cannot be perfect, of course. And here, where coaching comes in, also mentoring or even self-coaching if you're up to it. But I highly encourage you to have someone to talk to who is not basically dependent on your success, right? And coaching would be probably the ideal scenario for this. Let me go further. So this slide is probably the most important takeaway from my presentation because it's a success equation. And this success equation was developed by Center for Creative Leadership. And we use it all, and I know some people who on this call have done recruitment. I also done a lot of recruitment and executive search, headhunting actually. So when we look at the person who want to hire in our organization, or we look at ourselves who wants to basically become a leader in the organization, this is what companies look into. First, they look into raw material, the right stuff, right? So their intelligence, their functional skills or technical skills, some kind of certifications and so on, plus all these competency building experiences, especially if you had experiences overseas or in different market or some interesting projects, or you had interaction with coaches, or you had a very lucky and had a good manager who gave you constructive feedback. It also all helps you to basically become a high potential leader. But it will not help you as much as learning agility would, because learning agility here in this formula is a magic multiplier, because people who are very successful leaders in different environment, they possess learning agility, and its ability and willingness to learn from experience, not just learn from institution or doing training and so on, but actually doing a job and learning on the job and applying your new knowledge right away in new context. I'm going to tell you more about this later on, but Connie, do you want to add anything here?
No, I think you're good. Thank you.
Okay, please feel free to also ask any questions in the chat, and if I see there are some of people saying in the chat, but I cannot see it. So Connie, if you have something, just let me know.
I will.
So how do you see learning agility in others, right? It's actually, these are examples of how you can perceive learning agility in other people, especially in your team. And as I said, it's a measurable concept of behavior, basically, right, in people. And many companies already do measure learning agility, but you can tell right away, even among kids. So learning agility does not depend on sex, age, gender, I don't know, country of origin, education, anything like that. I can say my 13-year-old son is learning agile, and he was learning agile maybe even in kindergarten, because just like Connie said, kids are curious, right? And they have fun learning new things. And he was also a very, like a leader among his classmates in the kindergarten and now in school. So he's always challenging authority, challenging me, and asking, why do you think it's this way? Why not that way? And always trying to find new ways to do things, which is really cool. So I learned a lot from him. And learning agile people actually natural leaders, I would say. They are very charming, and then they also can be very difficult to work with, because if they are not challenged enough, most likely they will leave the organization. So it's a very big concern for HR team having learning agile people on their team. So here I would like to repeat again the definition of learning agility, so it sticks to it, right, to you, right? So it's a ability and willingness to learn the right lessons from experience and successfully apply these lessons again, but to new situation. So in other words, learning agile leaders know what to do when they don't know what to do. I love this quote, and I also want to give an example of recent experience. When I was in Kazakhstan, I was the head of HR of a multinational corporation, also in consumer goods, and I hired a management trainee, a very young girl, fresh graduate, never had any experience except volunteering, and she was assigned a very big task of doing an event with our employees. So she had to do the whole thing, like budgeting it, collecting information, talking to stakeholders, and also selecting employees who will be ambassadors for for this event because it was related to new employer proposition, our employer brand basically. And she did so well. She did absolutely great. And we loved her for that. So guess who's going to be next event organizer? You probably guessed it, right? It's going to be her because she already learned new things, although she never done it before, was never taught how to do such an event or employer branding per se, but she did it and she learned on the go and she learned while doing it. And now she has this new skill that she can apply to different situation. So this is what learning agility is.
So we want you to answer in chat, and then we're also would love to even you can speak up. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? We would love to hear from all of you. David, are you comfortable going and then we could even have people come on and share with us?
Absolutely. And I see there are more. I cannot open the chat, but can you see it?
Yes. So I think it would be more interesting if we invite people to just come forward. Steve says, I consult with the experts.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And Dana, ask those who know who are experts.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea, do you just care to just share with us what you do?
Well, part of what I do is, first of all, I have to get calm. Because if I don't know what to do, that can trigger some of my own mental saboteurs. Like I should know, right? I don't know why I think I should know, but for some reason I think I should know. And so then I have to do my own inner work in order to get myself into a good place. And then I start to explore. I just start to call people that I think may be able to support me. I reach out, I ask for help. You know, that can be hard. I ask for meetings, I ask for conversations, I do research, I read, you know, I mean, all the things that everybody knows how to do. But I do that hopefully from a more calm place. And then my next step is to let that all germinate. I don't try to find an answer right away because I know that my creative self needs to have time with all of that. And then at some point when decisions need to be made, I just go with what seems to be the best decision, take action, something. It can be there can be a lot of creative tension in between the I don't know what to do and the making of the decision, because one never knows if it's the right decision really fully. I mean, it might feel right and you might do your best, but you don't know the outcome until you see what happens.
Thank you. Yes, to get calm. Gabriella, what do you do?
I am here. What do? I stop thinking and thinking and thinking to find the answer or of what I have to do or I need to do. I listen to my inner side and say, okay, what should I do? And I stay there for a while. I'm a big meditator, so I believe in that you can have answers from your inner side.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Dana.
Well, I think I certainly do my best to surround myself with people, as Doug says, that are smarter than me. And I pull on their knowledge, their experience, their wisdom. And I also take an inner reflection of what I know, what I'm certain of. I pull from that and then I collaborate with others. I believe in community.
Yeah, thank you. And I referred to Hank Marshall and I asked him that question and he said, the first thing I do is I admit I don't know what to do. And I thought that, and I asked Doug Brunke, our CEO at the chamber, spontaneously, and he goes, I just think harder, and I think harder, and then I take a deep breath, and then I will call my son-in-law. And I thought, wow. And then it's interesting, I asked my sister-in-law, she goes, I go to YouTube. And so everybody has their thing. So Raymond Levine, what do you do when you don't know what to do?
I'll either ask you, or I'll consult my wife, or I'll consult my Barbara, my wife Barbara. But what I also do is, I think there was another person, is that just sort of think about, what's the goal? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want it to look like? You know, I sort of create an image, and then to write things down of, you know, what are the tasks that I need to do to accomplish it, which may then lead to you know, people that I need, you know, like event space or food, or, you know, whatever. What are the tasks? So those are the general things that I would begin to. Those are the general things that I would do.
Yeah, thank you. Cosina, we'll do one more. What do you do when you don't know what to do?
Hi, first I recognize that I don't know what to do. I accept that I don't know what to do. And then I would reach out to colleagues in other industries, you know, try and get their perspective, and kind of have discussions within my network, do my own research, and then, you know, and then I'm better informed to be able to determine what is the right thing to do.
Yes, thank you. So David, spontaneously, I'm going to ask you, what do you do when you don't know what to do?
Very similar to what people just answered. I think the first thing, you have to basically accept the fact that you don't know everything, and stay calm. And basically, I really like to see the bigger picture of what is this about? What should be the end result? And this comes not only in your professional life, it could be in your personal life. For example, you are doing for the first time, I don't know, a trip overseas, right? Arranging a trip for your loved ones, and you've never been there. How do you go if you've never done it before? So basically, you're pulling all this information, you're taking all the facts, and you're comparing, and you're choosing, you're selecting, and then all of a sudden you become an expert how to do this, right? So I think another very big part of it is just being ready to show up. Part of the job is just be ready to show up, right? And be confident that you can do it, because no one is perfect. No one knows everything. So it's possible that there will be something that you will have to learn from the scratch.
Thank you. Okay, let's move forward.
So these are questions to assess learning agility. If you're feeling like you need someone in your team who has to be learning agile, or you actually want to discover, are you learning agile, and ask these questions yourself or with a coach, and also develop this learning agility in the future. But I'll give you two more questions that are not in this presentation that I ask usually when I'm interviewing top managers as an executive search partner. I ask these questions, and they always, like very easily to assess, help you assess actually if person possesses learning agility or has needs to develop it. So first question I would ask, have you ever had a project when you were not sure about the outcome or end result, and you also didn't have clear instructions how to do it? So you had to create the process while you're doing it. And if you have, how did it end? And it doesn't matter if it was a success or failure. Actually, a failure could be also very helpful, because the second question is, which is much more important, what have you learned from this experience, and did you apply these lessons in a new context? And if the person says, like you did, for example, oh, I learned that I need to talk to other people, experts in the field, for example, or I learned that I need to do more research, or watch YouTube channel, right, on the subject or whatever. And if you applied this new lesson in your different situations in your experience, then you are learning agile. But often people don't say that, and people just like, no, I never had this experience before. And let me also say these things. Learning agility is not panacea for everything. You don't have to be learning agile to do the job. Actually, majority of the organization, like 90% of the organization, are high professionals, not high potential leaders. So they should be very meticulously crafting this skill, right? Being a master of what they do. And that is, and it's not jumping from one thing to another and not creating new processes, but actually being very thorough in what you do. For example, an accountant or neurosurgeon should not be learning agile, right? They should be high professionals, should be very deep experts in what they do. Do you agree, Connie?
Yes, so it's not one size fits all. However, it does help when people that do have that high professionality, that they also have the compassion and the empathy for other people too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So any questions, comments?
If you are interested in seeing this presentation, and I have actually a bigger presentation saved on this workspace, here's the QR code that you can follow, and it's absolutely free for you. I also saved lots of links to articles, books, and to different competencies development for learning agility. So it's all in one place. And if you've ever used Trello or never used Trello, this is a chance to learn something new. And I love this painting by Salvador Dali. It's called Persistence of Memory. Like the research says that after 24 hours, you will forget from 50 to 80% of new information. So tomorrow, you will probably forget half of what I just said. And after 2 weeks, you will probably forget 90% of what we just said with Connie. So to basically enforce your new knowledge, you have to practice or play it forward or tell somebody about learning agility. So this is why I created this workspace. So you have something and you can always go back there and read it more.
Yes, thank you, David, so much. I heard this presentation that he did at a conference, and definitely join his workspace, and you can grab onto that graphic of what it is to be learning agile. So thank you so much. And then I put in chat about the positive intelligence tomorrow. The Global Chamber has partnered with Positive Intelligence, and what makes this so unique is there's an app. So just like David just said, what we're going to hear 2 days from now, we won't remember. However, when you have an app that keeps you on track, wow, is that an ability to really develop the emotional and mental resilience scores? So mindset. So join us tomorrow for that. And any questions at all that we can answer here before we say adios?
Yes, Andrea, you have a question?
Not so much a question. I just want to really thank you. I had not heard of learning agility, and you all both did such an amazing job to present it and to share it. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Andrea is going to be one of the pod leaders with Positive Intelligence. So Raymond is asking, what courses online are you taking and what books are you reading? Anybody care to share? What are you taking online? I'm taking a course on indistractable, staying focused. I am reading. Dana, what are you reading?
I'm reading the Japanese book on Ikigai. Hopefully you can see it.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
And I've incorporated that in my coaching writers, really helping them to recognize their purpose in writing. It's absolutely phenomenal. I have a couple of books on it, actually. And I'm taking a course. I'm always taking a course just to improve. I'm a life learner. I want to say thank you as well. This was absolutely fabulous. And speaking of learning, I'll be in a training tomorrow when you're doing the other course. So I'll have to catch that on recording.
Thank
Excellent.
you. Thank you. So, yes. So I think that there are some that I didn't see here too. I'm listening to an audiobook on that are a placebo. So good to know. You're so welcome. We are so happy to have you here. And Dawn, who I know she's a CEO, said, now I know the phrase for our star performers. They demonstrate learning agility. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And definitely download that workspace. You will be able to access and have new information there. So you are so welcome. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
It was a pleasure and honor to present this very interesting topic to me. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
One advice, actually, if I can say it, if you travel abroad, this is a very great opportunity to learn new cultures. So try to talk to the locals and try to get off the beaten track and see how people actually live there. This is a very good exercise to develop your learning agility.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Have a great day.
We'll stay on for a minute if anybody wants to chat. So we'll stay on, but everybody else, adios. Thank you. Thank you.
Adios. I like that.
You like the adios?
Adios. Yes.
Adios.
Goodbye.
I have, this is Steve. I do have sort of like a recent conversation I had with a friend of mine. I haven't seen in a long time. And he was an SVP at a construction company, about 250 people. And he would have been in line for the CEO job, right? So he was sort of like the heir apparent to the position. And he just out of the blue quit the job, got another part-time job in retail. And when I asked him why, he said, I just don't have what it takes to blow up a big balloon like that.
That's going to be a very enriching experience for him. You know, like drastic changes, especially moving from one industry to another or from one country to another, will help to develop learning agility. And people usually become very successful after that because they think differently, not like you expected them to think.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe just taking a break.
Yeah, break is also needed.
Thank you for sharing that, Steve. Okay, so Cesar, well, you can sure just
Stop the recording.
yeah, stop the recording.
Mhm.
Okay. Sometimes
Well,
he's going on another.